The day I buried my parents. Marshall, my husband and fraternal twin sister Daphne, did not show up. My parents died together on the open sea. My father had surprised my mother with a weekend island tour, a rare trip away from the vineyard, but the weather turned on them. The storm was merciless. The boat capsized and never made it back to shore. When the Coast Guard found them, they were still holding hands. I was still at the cemetery when my phone buzzed. A message from Daphne. I opened it. The photo hit me like a punch. Marshall was kneeling in front of her, kissing her stomach like it was the most precious thing in the world. The caption read, "Guess who's finally going to be a father?" My hand shook. No. This had to be fake. But then another picture came. This one ended any hope I had left. Daphne stood in front of my bedroom mirror, wearing my silk robe, taking a selfie. Behind her, in the bed I shared with Marshall, he was fast asleep. I could not breathe. My own husband had gotten my twin sister pregnant. Daphne had always been the family's black sheep, reckless, selfish, the kind of girl who wore trouble like perfume. My parents spent years cleaning up her messes while I stayed behind to help run the vineyard. But the moment I married Marshall, she changed. Or pretended to. She started imitating me. My dresses. My perfume. Even the way I curled my hair and held a wine glass. At first, I told myself it was harmless. Now I saw it for what it was. The tears came so hard I could barely see. I dropped to my knees in front of my parents' grave. The dirt was still fresh. My tears soaked into it as I broke apart. I had noticed the glances between them before. The secret smiles. The way conversations would stop when I walked in. But I refused to believe the two people I trusted most could destroy me like this. My phone buzzed again. Marshall this time. "I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral. Something important came up. We need to talk when I get home." I knew exactly what he wanted to talk about. That night, he came home with Daphne by his side, carrying her bags. "Daphne needs a place to stay. She's scared to stay at your parents' house," he said in a soft tone, as though gentleness could erase the filth of what he had done. "She's pregnant. It's not safe for her to be alone." Daphne gave me a sweet, fake smile. "I am sorry, sis." I begged Marshall to wait, but the baby's health comes first. "I hope you understand. We're twins, right? You'll understand. I know it's not the best day to show up, with it being our parents' funeral." I stared at the floor. My chest was so tight it hurt to breathe. Marshall continued, "She is your sister, your own flesh and blood. You wouldn't want anything bad to happen to her." I wanted to scream. Throw something. Smash his face in. But I just sat there like a ghost. He tried again. "I'm sorry for what happened between us. I love you. Only you. What happened with Daphne was a mistake, but it won't happen again." I looked up at him, my voice shaking. "She is pregnant. And you? You call that a mistake?" "Yes. But we made an agreement. When she gives birth, the baby will be yours. You've always wanted a child, Leora. Since you can't have one, this is the universe helping us." Those words. "You can't have one. I can't believe you," I whispered. "You slept with my sister, got her pregnant, and now you expect me to thank you?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "Don't be dramatic, okay? Now we can finally have a child. I can be a father." Daphne started fake crying. "Oh, Marshall. Look at what I've done. I'm ruining everything, my twin hates me." I snapped, "Cut the fucking act, Daphne." She gasped and cried harder. I should go." Marshall's voice turned sharp. "Stop. You're stressing her. No wonder you can't give me a child." That one sentence broke me all over again. He softened his tone like it could undo the wound. "I didn't mean it like that. I just don't want the baby harmed." Okay, then I want a divorce. His face went pale. What? Daphne smirked like she had already won. I said I want a divorce. Leora, no. We are family, Daphne said, dripping with fake pity. Marshall shook his head. You don't mean it. I do. Because of this? Because I made a mistake? He stepped closer, his voice low and dangerous. I am Marshall Celestino. If you walk out, I will find you. I will drag you back. And I will burn your precious vineyard to the ground. My heart froze. The vineyard, 40 hectares of vines, barrels, and history was my parents' life's work. It was the only piece of them I had left. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice breaking. You brought this on yourself. I shook my head, tears streaming. You humiliate me, you move her in, you threaten me. What more do you want? Daphne's baby will be ours. Why can't you be happy? Happy? Wow. Something inside me snapped. I wiped my tears. Daphne's eyes gleamed like she had won. That was the moment I decided. I overreacted, I said quietly. I'll stay, for now. Give me time. Marshall smiled and kissed my forehead, but that night, I lay curled up on the floor of the guest room, crying until my body hurt. Upstairs, Marshall was with Daphne in the master bedroom. Our bedroom. I grieved for my parents. I grieved my marriage. I grieved for myself. When my tears finally ran out, I reached for my phone. I called the one person who hated Marshall more than I did. The one man he was truly afraid of. His older half-brother. Percival Celestino. Chapter 2. Percival picked up after one ring. His voice was smooth, but beneath it was something that made the air feel heavy. Leora, he said, slow and deliberate, I don't take calls from ghosts. What do you want? The sound of him sent a shiver down my spine. Percival Celestino was not just Marshall's older half-brother. He was the head of the Circolo Nero, an old and dangerous wine smuggling syndicate disguised as a luxury empire. In his world, people didn't just die, they disappeared so cleanly it was as if they had never been born. I want to destroy Marshall, I said. Completely. I want him ruined, and I can't do it alone. A pause. Long enough for me to imagine him deciding whether my life was worth the next breath I took. Then, a low chuckle, not amused, but approving. I've been waiting for this call, he said. Speak. I told him everything. Marshall cheating with Daphne. Moving her into our home on the day I buried my parents. His threats to burn down the vineyard my family had built from the soil up. Every insult. Every humiliation. Percival didn't interrupt. When he finally spoke, his voice was almost a whisper. When do you want him gone? 4 days. Good, he said. I can bury a man in less time. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to hope. I'll handle it, Percival continued, but there's a price. What is it? Marry me. My breath caught. What? Do it, and you're untouchable. No one lays a hand on what's mine. Not even Celestino's. Especially not Marshall. He then hung up without a goodbye. That night, I barely slept. His voice stayed in my head, cold, certain, lethal. Marrying Percival would mean stepping into a world of quiet executions and smiling assassins, where wine cellars doubled as graves and power was bought in blood. But with him, Marshall would never touch me again. And then the next morning, my world tilted again. I sat in the clinic's waiting room, holding the paper the nurse had given me. Positive. Not just one heartbeat. 2. I was pregnant with twins. A bitter laugh slipped out as tears blurred my vision. 6 years ago, the doctors told me I could never have children after the accident Marshall caused the night he'd been driving drunk, furious after a business deal went wrong. We'd crashed into a roadside barrier, the impact crushing my lower abdomen. While I lay in the hospital, barely conscious, he'd whispered, "I didn't mean it," and then disappeared for days. The doctors told me the damage was permanent. I had believed them. I had accepted the cruel names. Barren. Broken. Useless. And now this. My phone buzzed. A message from Percival. 3 days. Decide. 3 days. I could be free in 3 days, but what about the babies? Could I bring them into this life? A world of betrayal, lies, and men like Marshall? Or worse, men like Percival? I left the clinic in a daze and drove back home. The front door opened and closed behind me. Well, well. Look at you. You look like you've been hit by a truck. I didn't even glance up from the couch. Then the sound of a car engine outside made my chest tighten. Marshall was home. I stood to leave before he could see me, but Daphne blocked my way. "Don't run off. Stay and watch your husband kiss me hello," she mocked. But I pushed past her and went to the guest room. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely turn the lock. It didn't matter. The door slammed open with a deafening crash. I spun around, startled. Before I could get a word out, Marshall's hand came across my face. The slap hit me so hard my ears rang. The floor met me before I could even breathe. My vision went black for a moment, and the copper taste of blood filled my mouth. I just stayed there. Frozen. Why? Marshall had never laid a hand on me before. What the hell was that? My voice cracked. Why would you do that? Marshall's glare didn't waver. How dare you lay your hands on Daphne? She's carrying my child for fuck's sake, Leora. Is that what you've become now? My stomach nodded. What? I never touched her. Daphne stepped forward like she'd been waiting for her cue. I came in to check on her. I brought tea, Marshall. I was trying to be kind. But she sucked in a shaky breath. She slapped me and told me I should have died instead of our parents. That the world would have been better without me. She said she hated my guts and, her eyes darted to me, brimming with crocodile tears. And that she was planning to kill me. My pulse spiked. That's a lie. She even grabbed a knife from the table. Daphne pushed on, ignoring me. She pointed it at me, Marshall. Said she wanted to watch the light leave my eyes. I thought she was going to stab me right there. Chapter 3, You Lying Witch. She looked away like she couldn't bear my cruelty, but I saw the flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. Marshall's voice dropped, low and sharp. Get out of my sight before I lose control. You believe her over me? I felt my throat burn. He didn't even blink. You're not the same, Leora. Losing the baby years ago broke you. Now you're just bitter. A bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. Blood ran down to my lip. I wiped it away with the back of my hand. His eyes flicked to the red smear, and for half a second, I thought I saw guilt. He started, but Daphne made a small whimper behind him. My head, it hurts, Marshall, she whispered. She hit me so hard. He turned to her instantly, his arm going around her like I didn't exist anymore. And Daphne glanced at me over his shoulder, her lips curling into the tiniest smirk. 3 days. I just had to survive 3 more days. The next morning, I slipped out early. The air was cool, but my chest felt heavy as I sat in the clinic's waiting room. My hand rested on my stomach. It was still flat, but I knew what was inside. 2 heartbeats. 2 tiny lives I never thought I could have. The nurse called my name. My legs felt weak as I followed her into the room. The doctor looked up, startled. Mrs. Celestino, he said. I remember you. I gave a faint smile. He glanced at my file, then back at me. Are you certain you want to go through with this? I stayed quiet. Leora, he said softly, this pregnancy is a miracle. If you end it, there will be no second chance. His words hit me like a punch. I pressed my palm to my stomach. I thought about all those years I cried myself to sleep, begging God for just one miracle. The way my heart cracked every time someone else announced a pregnancy. And now, when the impossible had finally happened, I was about to throw it away because of Marshall. Because of his betrayal. The pressure in my chest broke, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears rolled down my cheeks before I could stop them. My voice came out shaky, almost a whisper. I'm keeping them. That's the right choice, Leora. When I walked out of the clinic, it felt like the air was lighter. I wasn't free yet, but in 3 days I would be gone. I would disappear with my children and start over far away from all this poison. Leora. The sound of my name made me freeze. I turned slowly and saw Marshall was striding toward me. Before I could take a step back, his hand clamped around my arm. Thank God I caught you, he gripping me so hard I knew there would be bruises later. What is it now? My voice came out flat, tired. It's Daphne, he said. She's in the hospital. High fever all night from the stress and from the way you attacked her. His eyes were sharp with accusation. You did this, Leora. My laugh was bitter and humorless. I already fucking told you. I never touched her. He ignored me completely. She passed out this morning. Doctors say her fever spiked, she's too weak. And now she needs a blood transfusion. I frowned. And that has what to do with me? Marshall's jaw tightened. You're the match. You're her twin. You're the only one who can save her. You want my blood? After everything she's done to me? My stomach turned. His grip on my arm tightened painfully. This isn't about your petty feelings. This is about saving 2 lives. You can be bitter later. Right now you're going to do what's right. I tried to pull away, but he started dragging me toward the parking lot. My heels scraped the ground. There are other donors. Check another hospital. I'm not doing this. He stopped, turned to me, and his voice went cold. You will, because this is your fault. You will never believe me over her, will you? He didn't answer. Just started pulling me again. I swallowed hard, then blurted the words I'd been keeping to myself. I'm pregnant. Chapter 4. That stopped him. He looked over his shoulder, disbelief etched into his face. What did you just say? I'm pregnant, I repeated, my voice shaking but loud enough for him to hear. The doctor said it's a miracle I even conceived. It's a high-risk pregnancy, and it's twins, Marshall. If you take my blood, you could kill them. Our babies. For a moment, silence. Then he laughed. The sound was cruel, sharp, and it echoed in my ears. You expect me to believe that? His voice dripped with scorn. You would stoop so low as to fake a pregnancy just to get out of helping your own sister? I'm not lying, I whispered. You're a liar, Leora. You've always been a liar. You will give the blood. End of discussion. Something inside me cracked. I won't kill my children for her. His expression darkened like a storm. Then you'll watch me burn that vineyard your parents built, row by row. I'll make you stand there while I tear down every vine they planted, grind the soil until nothing grows again. And when I'm done, there will be no bottles, no barrels, no trace of their name on this earth. My blood turned to ice. That vineyard wasn't just land. It was the only piece of my parents I had left. They had poured decades into it since the 80s, tending every grape with their own hands. I grew up running between those rows, smelling the sweet crush of harvest season. It was the heart of our family and he knew it. Why you wouldn't dare? Marshall stepped in close, so close I could feel his breath. His eyes were sharp now. Push me and find out. I stared at him, my chest rising and falling too fast. This was the man I'd once loved, the man who'd once promised to protect me. Now he was the very thing I needed protection from. My hand found my stomach, instinctive, protective. The twins. Our twins. My tears came silently this time. When he grabbed my arm and pulled, I didn't fight him. Fighting him only ever ended one way. I followed, quiet, swallowing down the sobs that wanted to break out. He took me into the VIP hospital room he'd gotten for Daphne. My twin sister lay there, pale, hooked to 4 fluids, eyes red. She let out these soft little whimpers like she was barely holding on. Marshall rushed to her side. "Daph, I'm here," he murmured, stroking her hair back with a tenderness he hadn't shown me in years. "You'll be all right." I brought her. Her lips trembled. "It hurts, Marshall, everything hurts." I stood still while watching my husband treat my sister like she was porcelain. But then she cracked one eye open, and smiled. No, smirked. A quick, smug little twitch of her lips before she shut her eyes again. "Bitch." My stomach twisted with fury. I stepped forward to speak, but Marshall turned so fast I didn't have time to react. His hand closed over my wrist like a steel cuff. His glare told me exactly what would happen if I opened my mouth. The door opened. A doctor came in, glancing between us. "She's getting worse," Marshall said without looking at me. "Start the transfusion now." "She's stable enough to," the doctor began, but Daphne whimpered again. "We're not waiting." Marshall cut him off. "The donor's right here." The doctor's eyes landed on me. He nodded and told the nurses to prepare. I froze when I saw the needle in his hand. My skin went clammy. I'd always hated needles, and Marshall knew that. In the early years, he'd hold my hand, whisper something soft, distract me until it was over. This time he didn't even look my way. When Daphne whimpered again, he left me completely, rushing back to her side. I turned my face away as the doctor stepped closer. In my head, I was begging anyone, God, fate, even the devil, to stop this. The needle was inches from my arm when the door burst open. "Stop." Another doctor ran in, clutching a file. He was out of breath. "You can't do this." The room went still. "Miss Celestino is pregnant," he announced. The needle was lowered instantly. Marshall blinked, his face twitching. "That's impossible." "She can't." The doctor stepped closer and handed him the file. "She came in this morning for an abortion appointment but cancelled. She's carrying twins. High risk." The relief hit me like a wave, my knees almost giving out. Finally. Finally there was proof. But before I could breathe for real, Marshall looked up. His voice was like ice. "I don't fucking care. Take her blood." I stared at him, my mouth falling open. "What?" His jaw clenched. "You heard me." The room went quiet except for the steady beeping of the monitors. One of the nurses took a hesitant step forward. "Mr. Celestino, your wife can't donate blood. She's pregnant. With twins. And it's a high-risk pregnancy. If we proceed, she could lose both babies." Marshall's expression didn't flicker. He moved closer, his voice low and sharp. "I heard you. Do it anyway." The doctor looked from him to me. "Sir, this could endanger her life as well." "We can't." "You can," Marshall cut in, his tone like ice. "I'm paying you enough to do whatever I say." I felt my chest tighten. This was the man I had married. The man I had once believed would keep me safe. Marshall's glare swept across the room. "I am Marshall Celestino. You all work here because I allow it. Cross me, and you'll regret it." Chapter 5. The nurses froze. The doctor looked at the floor. No one wanted to defy him. One nurse turned to me, her voice almost apologetic. "Mrs. Celestino, we need your consent." I stared at Marshall, my tears falling one by one. "You've always claimed you wanted a child, and now that I'm carrying your twins, you'd throw them away for Daphne's fake illness?" He gave a bitter laugh. "You were going to abort them anyway." I shook my head. "And you just heard I cancelled it." Marshall sighed as if I were a stubborn child. "Leora, your pregnancy isn't stable." The odds aren't in your favor. Daphne's condition is more secure. Her baby has a real chance. My stomach dropped. So you're willing to kill mine for hers? He stepped forward, softening his tone like that would make it better. It's not about that. Daphne's vitals are slipping. Yours, well, you might not make it next month. I couldn't speak. I could only look at him and realize he wasn't just saving a life. He was choosing a woman. And it wasn't me. You've already made your choice, I whispered. Daphne let out a small, practiced cough from the bed. His attention snapped to her instantly, leaving me invisible. The nurse's touch on my arm was light, her eyes full of pity. Mrs. Celestino, please. Marshall didn't look back. I swallowed hard. Do it. The needle slid into my arm. My blood flowed into the tube. I stared at the floor, willing myself not to cry. My chest tightened, and dizziness rolled over me in waves. The nurse checked the monitor and gasped. Her vitals are dropping. Stop the transfusion, the doctor ordered. Marshall shoved him back. Don't stop. Daphne needs it. She's stable, the nurse shot back. You're blind if you think she's fine, Marshall snapped. Pain tore through me. My vision blurred. I could taste blood. My body was trembling uncontrollably. Somewhere in the haze, my thoughts went to Percival. The way his voice had wrapped around the word finally, like he had been waiting for me all along. I had told him to wait. I had never said yes. The medical staff argued with Marshall, their voices a jumble. He never looked at me. Only at Daphne. I managed to whisper, barely audible. God. Please save my babies. And then everything went dark. When I woke up, I honestly wished I hadn't. My whole body hurt like I had been thrown down a flight of stairs and run over for good measure. There was this horrible empty feeling inside me, like something had been ripped away. Oh, Mrs. Celestino. You're finally awake. We thought we were going to lose you, a female doctor said quietly from beside me. My throat felt like sandpaper. My limbs were heavy, sore, bruised in places I didn't even know could bruise. I blinked against the blinding hospital lights, trying to remember why I was here. For a second, I thought maybe it was a bad dream. But then it all came back. Marshall. Daphne. The blood transfusion. The pain. The panic. The screaming inside my head. Fear clawed its way up my chest as I turned my head toward the doctor. Her expression was careful, too careful. I already knew. My babies. My voice cracked. Please tell me they're okay. She hesitated. That pause was worse than any answer she could have given me. Her eyes softened, and she shook her head. We tried everything. I'm sorry. The twins didn't make it. The world stopped moving. And then I broke. I sobbed until my lungs gave out, until my body shook and my stitches pulled, until my vision blurred with tears. I cried for the two little lives I never got to hold, for the tiny kicks I'd never feel again, for the future that Marshall had stolen from me without a second thought. If I had known this was how it would end, maybe I would have ended the pregnancy early, before I let myself love them. When the tears finally slowed, I wiped my face with trembling fingers. My mind drifted to the last conversation I'd had with Percival. His offer. What day is it? It's Thursday, she said gently. You've been unconscious for 2 days. 2 days. That meant I was running out of time. I need my phone, please. It's in the drawer beside you. I took the phone. My hand shook as I typed the message, I'll take your offer. Meet me at the airport. Finally. I was starting to think you'd changed your mind, little grapes. Never. I typed back. Chapter 6. The doctor asked if I needed anything else. I gave her a smile that tasted like metal. Did anyone come to see me? I'm sorry. No one came. Something in me went cold then. Not the kind of cold that makes you shiver. The kind that settles deep, like frost in your bones. When she left, I stared at the wall for a long time. Eventually, I pushed the blanket off me. Pain tore through my body, but I ignored it. Mrs. Celestino? A nurse had just walked in. You shouldn't be moving. You lost a lot of blood. Your stitches. I'm leaving, I said flatly. I don't care if I'm still bleeding. I'm not staying here another second. She tried to reason with me. You're not stable enough. We haven't. I said. I'm leaving. Just give me whatever I need to sign. She stared at me for a long moment, then walked out. A few minutes later, she came back with the discharge papers. Every step toward the door felt like climbing a mountain barefoot. My legs shook, my back screamed, but I kept going. Halfway down the hall, I saw them. Marshall and Daphne. My twin sister. They were in another room, sitting side by side. Smiling. Laughing. Like nothing had happened. Like my babies had never existed. I turned away before they could see me. They had already taken everything from me once. I wasn't going to let them do it again. And this time I had Percival. The man who hid his empire behind polite smiles. The man people whispered about but never named out loud. The man who could burn the Celestinos to the ground without lifting a finger. And I was done being their victim. Marshall was feeding her soup with this fake gentle smile, like he actually cared. Daphne sat there, looking fragile but smug, soaking up all the attention like a queen. Before, seeing them together would have crushed me. Now, I felt nothing. I turned to slip away, but, as usual, luck wasn't on my side. Leora? Marshall's voice caught me. I stiffened, jaw tightening. I turned slowly, keeping my face blank, trying to hide the storm inside. When our eyes met, I caught something flicker in him, guilt, maybe. Like he'd just remembered I was even there. I didn't know you were awake, he stuttered, pushing himself up from the chair beside Daphne. How are you feeling? I said nothing. Not a word. My silence was louder than any answer I could give. Marshall's shoulders slumped. Your sacrifice, it wasn't for nothing, he said quietly, looking at me like he wanted me to believe it. Daphne's fine. The baby's healthy and strong. You saved them both. I laughed. It was sharp, bitter, without any humor. Marshall flinched like he'd been hit. Daphne rested her hand on her flat belly, smiling all sweetness. Marshall hasn't left me alone for a second. He's been so good to me. I wasn't about to sit and listen to their sick show. I turned to leave, but Marshall jumped up, reaching for me. Wait, Leora. Just wait. I froze. Not because I wanted to hear him, but because I knew how ridiculous it would sound. I'm throwing a party tonight, he blurted out. To celebrate your recovery and Daphne coming home safe. It's been a rough road. My father's going to be there. He really wants to see you. I didn't say a thing. He stepped closer, his voice softer, trying to sound sincere. Let me give you a ride home. We're all going the same way. I'm not going home, I said flatly. I'm going to my parents' vineyard. Percival had promised to watch over the vineyard once I accepted his offer. It was the only piece of my parents left, the only thing Marshall could never touch. Marshall blinked, confused. The vineyard? Why? I tilted my head, keeping my face cold. I have business there. None of your concern. Daphne perked up suddenly, her fake sweetness on full display. Perfect timing. I was going to visit too. It is our parents' vineyard after all. That caught me off guard. She'd always acted like it didn't exist. Marshall nodded quickly. Then we'll come with you. I stared at him, surprised at how fast he agreed. This was the same man who always called the vineyard a waste, a burden. But now, with Daphne mentioning it, he jumped at the chance. I sneered quietly. Fine. You can come. But there's one thing I need from you first. Marshall straightened, hopeful. Anything. I reached into my bag and pulled out the discharge papers I'd been holding since he brought Daphne home. Divorce paper. He took the papers, eyebrows furrowed. What's this? My discharge form, I said flat, not meeting his eyes. He hesitated, always so careful about what he signed. But then he glanced at Daphne, who fluttered her lashes and smiled sweetly, and suddenly he forgot all caution. I'm tired, Marshall, she purred. Let's go home quickly. He nodded, barely looking at the papers before signing. The moment his pen lifted, a small smirk played on my lips. Thank you, I said, slipping the papers back into my bag. Now I'm free from you. Chapter 7. He didn't catch the meaning behind my words. He was too busy fussing over Daphne, completely blind to what I was really planning. When we got to the car, Daphne was quick to reach for the front passenger door like she owned it. But Marshall grabbed her arm gently and stopped her. Hold on, Daphne, he said, then turned to me with a small, hopeful smile. Leora, maybe you should take the front seat. No way. I get so dizzy sitting in the back. Daphne pouted, throwing a little fit. Our baby was making me feel awful lately, Marshall. I rolled my eyes. Marshall looked stuck between us, clearly trying to figure out how to keep us both happy. It's okay, I said coldly. Let her have the front. Marshall started to protest, but I cut him off. I said it's fine. Let her sit up front. I don't care. There was a heavy silence. Daphne beamed like she won, and Marshall frowned but didn't argue. I slid into the back seat, my whole body aching, but I said nothing. Leaning my head against the cold window, I stared outside like I wasn't really there. After a few minutes, Daphne began her usual game, hoping to get a reaction out of me. She rested her hand on Marshall's thigh, her fingers slowly tracing circles. I didn't bother looking, but from the corner of my eye, I caught her glancing back at me with this smug little smirk. Marshall stiffened immediately. Daphne, he muttered under his breath, moving her hand away. What, she said, innocent as ever. When he said nothing more, she tried again, this time moving her fingers higher. I said stop. Marshall snapped, his voice sharper now. She flinched and suddenly tears welled up in her eyes. She turned away and began quietly sobbing into her hands. Why are you yelling at me? She whimpered. I'm carrying child, Marshall. And you're yelling at me? Marshall sighed, his expression softening as he ran a hand through his hair. Sorry, all right? I didn't mean to yell. Just, not when she's here. He never said my name. Like I was invisible, like I didn't exist back there. Daphne sniffled, then leaned forward to rummage through the glove box. Just looking for tissues, she said quietly. What she pulled out was definitely not tissues. It was a small piece of lace bright red panties. She giggled, holding them up like a trophy. Oh, Marshall, she said playfully. Remember when we couldn't make it to the hotel? You just pulled me into your lap right here in the car. That's enough, Marshall said sharply without looking at her. Oh, relax, Daphne rolled her eyes. Leora gets it. Hormones make you crazy. Lucky you're here to help. She slid her hand back onto Marshall's thigh. This time, he didn't move it away. Marshall glanced in the rearview mirror and our eyes met for a split second. I looked away before he could see the storm inside me. Once, that same glance could melt me. I still remember the first time we met. It was at a charity dinner my parents were hosting. He'd been a last-minute guest, filling in for some investor who'd backed out. He'd stood there in his dark suit, tall, broad-shouldered, with that half-smile. Do you always stare at people this way? He'd asked me, and I'd been too stunned to answer. Later that night, he walked me to my car and kissed me under the moon. Back then, he didn't just look at me, he saw me. For the first 2 years, he treated me like I was the only woman in the world. No matter how busy his work got, he always showed up at the vineyard for Friday night dinners, always made sure my glass was full, always asked if I'd eaten. Sometimes, we'd sneak away into the vines, laughing like teenagers. Then Daphne came back. She'd been abroad for architecture school, a term she liked to toss around to make herself sound impressive. But the truth? She never finished a degree. Hated studying. Changed courses every semester like she was trying on clothes she'd never buy. Paris, Rome, Tokyo, she'd been everywhere except anywhere she was supposed to be. When she finally came home, she brought chaos with her. At first, it was subtle. Little laughs at my expense. Innocent touches on Marshall's arm during family dinners. And now, here we were, her hand on his thigh. The man who once swore he'd never let anyone come between us was now sitting next to the only woman who ever had. When I finally got to the vineyard, I didn't say a word. I got out and walked past Marshall and Daphne without looking back. The wrought iron gates stood tall, the same as they had for decades. Familiar, yet heavy with memories. My parents had bought this land in the early 1980s, turning bare soil into rows of vines that fed generations. They were gone now, leaving this vineyard as the only piece of their lives I had left. My chest tightened with the memory, but I pushed it down. I had business to handle. Mr. Hernando, the estate manager, looked up from his ledger when I entered the main house. His eyes went wide at the sight of me, then softened with a warm smile. "Miss Leora," he said, standing up quickly. "Welcome back." "I need to talk to you," I said, cutting straight to it. We were wrapping up when a sharp, terrified scream ripped through the air from outside. My heart stopped. Something was wrong. I bolted toward the door, Mr. Hernando close to my heels. As soon as I stepped outside, the acrid stench of smoke hit me like a punch. Shouts came from the west fields. I ran forward and froze, staring in horror at the flames devouring the vines, the very lifeblood of my parents' legacy. Chapter 8. The west wing of my parents' vineyard was burning. Flames were swallowing everything: rows of oak barrels, crates of bottled vintages, decades of our family's work. Thick, bitter smoke clawed at my lungs, tasting of charred wood and spilled wine. Workers were shouting, running, hauling hoses that seemed useless against the blaze. Some had already escaped, coughing and stumbling, but others were still inside trying to save equipment, records, the heart of our family business. I grabbed one of them, panic twisting my voice. How did this happen? Who started it? One of the cellar hands broke down, tears streaming down his soot-streaked face. It was Daphne. She was messing with the gas stove in the tasting kitchen. Said she just wanted to scare you. My blood boiled, but there was no time for rage now. Get everyone out. I'm going back in, I shouted, pushing through the smoke and heat. Every step felt like walking into an oven. My lungs burned, my arms shook, but I kept going. The twins I was carrying didn't get to live. This vineyard, the land my parents built, deserved to survive. I owed it to them. Room after room, I hauled out people. Cellar workers, interns, faces streaked with ash, hands trembling. I couldn't stop. Not yet. And then I saw her. Daphne stood in the courtyard, her face lit by the glow of the fire, not with fear, but with delight. She laughed, actually laughed, while the home and legacy our parents had poured their lives into turned to ash. I've hated this place ever since I was born, she said, her voice sharp with venom. Now I finally got rid of it. Something inside me snapped. I stormed up to her and slapped her so hard my palm stung. This was our parents' life's work. Their blood, sweat, and tears are in this land, Daphne. How dare you, she just smirked, unfazed. I don't care. I hated them. And I hate you just as much. I stared at her, my vision trembling with rage. Her grin widened, wicked and taunting. Oh, and wanna make a bet? She tilted her head toward the flames as if admiring her own masterpiece. Let's see who Marshall saves first. A chill ran through me despite the heat raging around us. Before I could speak, a loud crash came from inside the estate. The roof was caving in. Smoke poured out in thick black clouds. Somewhere in the chaos, I heard voices, men shouting, someone calling my name. Leora. Marshall's voice. For one wild, desperate second, I thought maybe he meant it. Maybe he'd come for me. But Daphne only smiled wider, like she already knew the answer. Before I could even spit out a reply, part of the balcony gave way with a deafening crack. The fire roared higher, heat slamming against my skin like a wall. The smoke was getting thicker, stinging my eyes, burning my throat. I coughed so hard it made my ribs ache. And then Marshall. Daphne screamed, dropping to her knees like some damsel in distress. I'm choking. The baby. I can't. Her voice cracked perfectly, fake enough for me to hear, but real enough for him to believe. Marshall's shadow appeared through the smoke. He was holding 2 fire masks. His eyes found me instantly. Leora, he called, stepping toward me. But then Daphne whimpered, one hand clutching her stomach, the other reaching for him like she was on the brink of death. He froze. I saw it happen. That split-second shift. Marshall turned away from me. No, I rasped, stumbling forward, my hand half raised for the mask he was still holding. He yanked it back without even looking at me. Daphne needs them more, Leora. I'll be back, promise. The words cut cleaner than any knife. He forced the mask over her face, scooped her up and bolted for the exit. The second mask dangled in his other hand and never even offered to me. For a heartbeat, our eyes met through the haze. Cold. Resolved. And just before the smoke swallowed her, Daphne turned her head, her lips curling into a slow, poisonous smile that said, I've won. Then he was gone. M. Marshall. The smoke pressed down on me, thick and choking. My legs gave out. I hit the floor. I've got you, miss. Don't move. Mr. Hernando. Our old estate manager. He dragged me out of the inferno. The heat was unbearable, but he didn't stop until we reached the safety of the gravel drive. My chest burned with more than smoke. I gripped Mr. Hernando's arm. Drive me home. He hesitated. Miss Leora, now. My voice came out raw. Marshall won't be there. He'll be with her. We sped away from the vineyard, the burning silhouette shrinking in the rearview mirror. At the house, I moved quickly, methodically. Suitcase. Passport. Clothes. The documents I had hidden for months, waiting for the day I'd finally stop hoping. 15 minutes later, we were on the road again, this time toward the airport. In the departure hall, the air smelled of coffee and jet fuel. I stood at the boarding gate, the weight of everything I was leaving behind pressing against my ribs, but not crushing me. When they called my flight, I didn't look back. Goodbye, Marshall. You fed me to the flames. When I return, I'll be the. Chapter 9. Marshall's POV. I barely had time to think. The moment Daphne was out of the vineyard, I turned back toward the flames. I wasn't done. Leora was still in there. Marshall, no. Daphne's voice cracked as she clung to my arm. I'm going back. My voice came out harder than I meant, but I didn't care. You can't save her now, she said, tears welling up fast. Don't leave me here alone. She's not dead, I growled. Her grip tightened, nails digging into my skin. You'll die for nothing. The fire was spreading faster than I expected. The heat hit me in the face like a wall, the smoke choking every breath. It forced me to take a step back, then another. I shouted Leora's name over and over, but the roaring flames swallowed my voice. Sirens wailed, and firefighters poured in, shouting for everyone to back away. I ignored their orders, scanning the smoke for even a silhouette. I'd find her. I had to. After 4 hours. One firefighter emerged from the inferno, cradling a body. My chest went cold. The body's clothes were gone, skin charred black. It barely looked human. I couldn't tell if it was her. I didn't want to believe it was. And then I saw it. In the blackened hand, hanging by a half-melted chain, was the necklace. The one I gave Leora on the night she told me she loved me. My legs locked. The smoke was gone. The fire was gone. All I could see was the first night she wore it, laughing at some stupid joke I made, pressing her head against my chest like she belonged there. "No," I whispered. Daphne's cry ripped through the air. She stumbled toward the body, fell to her knees, and clutched it like she wanted to pull the life back into it. "I know my twin sister," she sobbed. "It's her. It's Leora." Her voice cracked into a wail before her whole body gave out. I caught her before she hit the ground. She collapsed into my arms, shaking, wetting my shirt with tears. Her voice was raw, but there was something deliberate in it. I carried her to the waiting ambulance. Her voice came small and broken. I can't breathe without her. She's my twin sister. One soul." "You can," I told her. "You will. You're all I have left now." The siren started up the second we got inside. I stared out the open doors as the vineyard burned behind us. My jaw was locked tight, but in my head I kept circling the same thought. This was Leora's fault. She was always picking fights, throwing herself into trouble, pushing everything to the edge. Tonight was just another one of her reckless choices catching up with her. The fire captain walked up before they closed the doors. "It's a total loss," he said. "Nothing salvageable. Burned all the way through." I kept my arm around Daphne as I looked him straight in the eye. "What about the body?" "Too burned for visual ID. We'll send it for dental and DNA testing. Could take days to confirm," he said. I shook my head. "You don't need to confirm. It's her." "Sir, I can't, it's her," I cut him off, voice steady. "My wife died in that fire tonight. End of story." He hesitated. "I understand you're grieving, but for the record, I said, leaning in just enough for him to know I meant it, "I'm telling everyone she's gone. You do your tests. I'll handle the rest." Daphne let out a quiet sob, and the captain's eyes softened before he stepped back. Everything happens for a reason. That's what I told myself as I walked Daphne away from the wreckage. Some lives aren't meant to drag on. Leora's, maybe it was always meant to burn out like this. Daphne's POV, the hospital lights made my skin look almost luminous, like I'd been painted into this sterile little scene. Pale, delicate, breakable. Inside, though, I was warm. Glowing. Leora was gone. Finally. I kept my breathing shallow, and my lashes damp. Every sniffle, every little tremor in my voice was for him. Marshall sat at my bedside, his big hand covering mine, solid and warm. He wouldn't leave. Not for food, not for rest. I made sure of it. When the nurse brought water, I let my fingers shake just enough to miss the glass. He was there instantly, holding it to my lips, tilting it for me like I was too fragile to manage on my own. "I miss my dear sister so much," I whispered, letting my voice break in all the right places. He pulled me against his chest, enough crying. "Our baby might stress." I pressed my cheek into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart under my ear. My lips curved the faintest bit, hidden from his view. I couldn't let him see the smirk. "Not yet. Poor sister. Your sweet Marshall is finally mine." Chapter 10. I drifted off, wrapped in the warmth of Marshall's presence, and fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, the bed beside me was empty. A folded note sat on the table. "Investors are calling. I'll be back later." I stared at the ceiling. My mind slipped to the last time I got exactly what I wanted. Just a week ago, on my parents' little boat vacation, I'd followed them in secret. Paid a man cash to tinker with the electrical system. The storm had been forecasted days in advance. I just made sure it had something to work with. I remember standing on the shore watching lightning carve the sky and the waves swallow their boat. Everyone thought it was tragic bad luck. I knew better. I've always known better. Even as a kid, I understood the only way to be loved in my family was to remove the competition. Growing up, I was the youngest twin. The wild one. The black sheep. Leora was the golden daughter. The perfect one. TSK. When we were 6, Mama sliced the birthday cake into 2 perfect halves, one for each of us. I remember staring at Leora's plate. Even though they were the same size, I swore hers looked bigger. Mama smiled at us both, kissed our foreheads. My 2 little blessings. I still felt like she meant Leora more. At 9, Papa hung both our paintings on the fridge. "I'm proud of both of you," he said, wrapping an arm around each of us. His voice was even, his smile the same for us both. But I saw the way his eyes lingered on hers, or maybe I just decided they did. At 13, we both brought home good report cards. They took us out for ice cream, 1 scoop each. Mama ruffled my hair and said, "You did wonderfully." Then she told Leora the same thing. But the way Leora laughed with them, the way she fit into their world, made me feel like I was standing outside a window, watching. But now, the black sheep grew teeth. And tonight, the sheep has been devoured. My fingers traced slow circles over my belly. "You'll never have to fight for love," I whispered to the life inside me. "I'll make sure of that." In my head, the next move was already forming. Marshall would stay exactly where I wanted him. The church smelled of lilies and candle wax. Leora's funeral was a closed casket. The officials had confirmed the burned body was hers. I sat at the front, veil low over my face, tears falling exactly when they needed to. Marshall had invited the investors too, his version of honoring her memory. They lapped up my grief like thirsty dogs. Behind me, I caught pieces of whispers. "She's the one who started the fire." "Don't say that here." "Shoo, she might hear you." Poor thing, losing her sister like that. She always did want to be the only one. God, look at her, milking it. I heard them all. My smile stayed buried under the trembling of my lip, my head bowed just right. But I marked the voice of the woman who said I started the fire. People like that always get what's coming. Marshall stood at the pulpit. Leora was a force. She could light up a room, make you feel seen. We will miss her. But we have to move forward. She would want us to move forward. I cried harder for the room's benefit, dabbing my cheeks with a lace handkerchief. Then I froze, not from his words, but because at the back of the church, a woman with a veil was watching Marshall too intently. She didn't flinch when my gaze caught hers. She simply slipped out the side door. I didn't care. Today was mine. My final happiness was sealed. 3 days later, over breakfast, I touched his hand lightly. "We should marry soon. For the baby. To honor Leora's memory by staying united." His eyes stayed on the papers in front of him. "It's too soon. The business needs my focus right now." I kept my smile soft. "Of course. I understand." Inside, heat curled in my chest. I let my eyes well up, the sob catching just enough to sound real. He was beside me in a second, pulling me against his chest. "Just give us 2 months," he said, "I'll marry you. But if we do it right now, people will tear you apart." The words melted the tension from my body. I tilted my face up, smiled against his mouth, and kissed him slowly. 2 months, I whispered. That night the house was quiet except for the hiss of the wind against the windows. I stepped into the kitchen for water and caught the sound of low voices. "Vineyard worker swears he saw Miss Leora the night after the fire," one maid whispered. "They say a man took her," another added. "I heard it was Miss Daphne who set the fire," the third murmured. "She wanted Sir Marshall all to herself," the first one said again. "Careful, if she hears I didn't let her finish." I stepped into the light, slow enough for my heels to click on the tile. They froze like guilty children. "Chapter 11 line up," I said. They obeyed. 3 of them in a row, hands clasped in front of their aprons. I moved to the first and slapped her face. The second got the same, my palm stinging but my face serene. Leora is dead, I told them, my sister is dead. And anyone whispering about her again, I leaned in, close enough for them to smell my perfume. We'll soon follow her into the grave. Their eyes were wide and I smiled faintly, took my glass of water, and left them standing there. Leora's POV, the fire and Percival's study crackled low, the shadows stretching long across the bookshelves. I sat curled in the deep leather chair, silk sleeves hiding the burns on my arms. My body ached, my skin pulled in angry red patches beneath the fabric, but my heart burned hotter. Betrayal did that. It took the pain and sharpened it into something clean. Percival sat across from me, his glass untouched, watching me like a predator deciding if the prey was worth the effort. His face was all sharp planes and unreadable calm. I took a sip of the wine, dark and heavy on my tongue. You're staring, I said. I'm deciding, he replied, voice low and steady. Whether you're a survivor or just a woman who got lucky. My laugh was short, humorless. I didn't get lucky. I got burned alive and watched the people I trusted spit on my grave. His gaze didn't waver. Then tell me. What do you plan to do about it? I remembered the wake. I slipped into the back of the church under a dark veil, standing among strangers who whispered about me like I was a story they'd already finished reading. Marshall stood at the front, his eulogy polished to a shine. Every word made me sound like a saint. I almost laughed then. The man who swore he loved me, who once told me I was the only thing worth building a life for, now talking about cherished memories while his fingers laced with hers. And Daphne, her tears fell on cue, perfect little drops of tragedy, until she thought no one was looking. Then her face went slack. Empty. The present snapped back when Percival poured more wine, his movements deliberate. You're officially dead now, he said, setting the bottle down. Want a new name? I swirled the wine, watching the legs run down the glass. Names don't matter. Revenge does. One corner of his mouth lifted. And how far are you willing to go? I met his eyes. As far as it takes. I remembered the fire, the suffocating heat, the smoke tearing at my lungs while going to the airport. Mr. Hernando, get me a body. His niece ran a funeral home. There was a woman's corpse, unclaimed. We didn't have time for questions. He brought it to the vineyard while the flames still roared. I unclasped the necklace Marshall had given me and pressed it into his palm. Put this on her, I said. Make it look like me. Minutes later, he was gone, carrying the body back into the blaze. While I boarded the plane. By nightfall, the world believed I'd burned with the estate. Now, I sat before Perciva as a dead woman with a heartbeat. You can't walk back into your life, Percival said. Good, I murmured. Let them think I'm a ghost. Makes it easier to haunt them. His eyes glinted in the firelight. Then let's make sure they never sleep again. I smiled slowly, tasting both the wine and the promise of ruin. That night, Percival came into the study with something in his hand. The paper was thick, expensive, the kind you could smell money on. He set it on the desk in front of me along with a pen. No words. Just a look that said sign. I stared at it. Marriage certificate. You're serious, I said, leaning back in my chair. He didn't blink. Deadly serious. For a heartbeat I hesitated. Aligning myself with Percival meant stepping into a world just as dangerous as Marshall's, maybe worse. But it also meant power. And power was the only currency I intended to spend from now on. I picked up the pen. My name slid onto the paper, dark ink bleeding into the fibers like a brand. When I finished, Percival's hand came down over mine, firm and warm. Now, he said, voice low, you're mine in name and law. I looked up at him. This isn't just an alliance. It's a weapon. Damn right it is. He let go, his eyes hard. And we're going to use it. I knew who he was. Marshall's half-brother. A secret the public never knew. Same father, different mothers. Percival was the bastard child sent into the shadows, cut out of the wool before he could crawl. He built himself from the ground up, brick by bloody brick, while Marshall inherited everything with a smile. I remembered him before. Years ago, he warned me. Marshall will destroy you, Leora. That's all he knows how to do. I didn't believe him. I told Marshall about it and he laughed, warned me in return. Said Percival was mafia. Said he did dirty, illegal things. So I stayed away. I crossed the room if he walked in. Then there was that gala. I was in silver silk, Marshall was already drunk, and Percival stepped up to me. He slipped a black calling card into my clutch. Call me when you want your husband ruined, he said. I know you'll hate him one day. I hated him for that. And I hated him more because he was right. Percival leaned back now, lighting a cigarette. The smoke curled between us. I've waited my whole damn life to destroy him. Now I have a wife with the same goal. I smirked, curling my fingers around my wine glass. Then let's make him wish the fire took me. His grin was slow, sharp, lethal. We'll burn him from the inside out, sweetheart. No grave to bury. Chapter 12. Percival set a velvet case on the desk, flipping it open like he was laying out a loaded gun. Inside, the necklace caught the light in a way that made my pulse slow. The stones looked like they could buy kingdoms. Stand up, he said. I did. The jewels were cold when he clasped them around my neck, heavier than they looked. They felt like they belonged to another lifetime, one where I was still soft enough to believe in love. You'll wear this, his voice dropped, so everyone knows you belong to me. Not him. Not ever again. I touched the centerpiece, feeling the sharp cut of the gems. And if someone asks where it came from? He smirked. You tell them it's the kind of thing men like me give to women like you. It felt different being claimed by someone who didn't pretend to be anything but ruthless. Marshall hid behind charm. Percival didn't hide at all. Later, we were at the long table in his study, papers spread out between us. Seating charts. Guest lists. Security schedules. All for Marshall's upcoming investor gala. That's your first strike, Percival said, stabbing a finger at the blueprints. But you're not walking in there as yourself. I know. You've made that clear, I said, sipping my wine. You can't kill a man's empire in one night, sweetheart. You bleed it dry. First, we shake his foundation. Then, we take his crown. The days blurred into something like a training montage out of someone else's life. I healed, though the burn still marked my arms under the silk. My hair changed shade, my posture sharpened. Enough that strangers wouldn't look twice, but anyone who truly knew me might hesitate, thinking they were seeing a shadow. Percival's people taught me how to shoot without flinching. How to disappear in a crowd. How to answer questions without giving away my name. One afternoon, he walked into the training room, watching me reload a pistol. Not bad for someone who used to sip champagne and host charity luncheons, he said. I didn't look up. Not bad for someone who used to think love was enough. He grinned. Love doesn't win wars, Leora. People like us do. And I believed him. 3 months since the world buried me. The road to my parents' vineyard was the same, but everything beyond the gate looked like hell. Dry soil cracked under the moonlight. Trellises leaned like broken ribs. Barrels sat rotting in the open, stinking of wasted wine. The workers were gone. I stepped out of the car, breathing in the ghost of a place that used to be alive. My parents loved this land. They loved both their daughters. It was Daphne who poisoned that love, twisting it until it strangled me. I clenched the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. One day, when Marshall and Daphne are nothing but names carved in stone, I'll bring this place back. Bigger. Better. Unshakable. I parked in the shadows outside Marshall's private villa. The windows glowed gold against the night. Through my binoculars, I caught him with his arm around Daphne, smiling like a man who's never lost anything. She leaned into him, perfect as a porcelain doll, her laugh floating across the courtyard. They had no idea I was meters away. I pulled out the burner phone. No number saved. No name. Just me. I typed. Do you still think the woman who carried your twins but decided to kill them for your mistress? Send. From my vantage point, I watched him glance at his phone. His face froze mid-laugh. He read it again. And again. Daphne touched his arm, asking something, but he didn't answer. A cold smile curled up my lips. Enjoy your little kingdom while it lasts. My phone buzzed. Percival. Come home now, wife. I slid the binoculars back into the case. No noise. No trace. The night swallowed me whole as I slipped away. A ghost doesn't need a goodbye. Marshall's POV. I sat in my study long after Daphne drifted off upstairs. The phone screen glared at me. That fucking message again. I'd read it 10 times and it still made my chest tighten. Do you still think the woman who carried your twins but decided to kill them for your mistress? The words dragged me back to that night. The hospital smell. The sound of her screaming. I didn't go in. I told myself she was being dramatic. That she'd recover. Now Leora was in the ground, and Daphne was carrying my child. I hit the intercom. Track this number. I want the location in 5 minutes. 10 minutes later, my assistant came back. Sir, it's untraceable. Burner. Before I could snap, one of my men came in. Boss, your half-brother wants to talk to you. Chapter 13. I stood, already pissed, and stepped out to the courtyard. Percival was there, leaning against a black car like he owned the night. He tossed something at me. Thick paper. Wedding invitations, he said, his voice dripping with that smugness I always hated. I didn't even look. Crumpled it and threw it on the ground. No need. He laughed, low and dangerous. You still scared of me? I pulled my gun, pointing it straight at his chest. Leave, bastard. He didn't even flinch. You sure you don't want to see who my bride is? I don't give a fuck. That grin of his widened, cold as a knife. He flicked a cigarette to the ground, crushing it under his boot. You will. Then he walked off like I wasn't 2 seconds from shooting him. I've hated him since we were kids. He was the bastard my father tried to hide. I had the name, the privilege, the empire in waiting. He had nothing. But even with nothing, Percival had a way of looking at me like he was the one holding the loaded gun. He warned me once, when we were both barely old enough to shave. One day, you'll lose everything you think is yours. And the worst part? He's the kind of man who can make that happen. Father disowned him, yet he clawed his way into billions. I've tried to cut him out before. Paid men to end him. Every single one ended up dead. The bastard just won't die. I jolted awake, heart pounding, sweat sticking my shirt to my back. The smell of smoke clung to me like it had seeped into my skin. In the dream, Leora was screaming my name, voice raw, flames closing in around her. I could see her eyes through the fire, full of rage and terror, and then she was gone. Marshall? Daphne's voice cut in. She rushed over, touching my shoulder like the perfect, concerned wife. I shoved her off. Get away. She froze for a second, hurt flashing across her face before she masked it again. I didn't care. I headed to the mini bar, grabbed a bottle, and poured 2 fingers of whiskey. Drained it. Then another. My hand still shook. I unlocked my phone and scrolled. Old videos. Leora laughing in the sun. Singing under her breath while cooking. Leaning in to touch my cheek like I was something worth loving. My knuckles went white around the phone. Behind me, I felt eyes on my back. I glanced at the window's reflection, Daphne, standing in the shadows, face twisting into something ugly before she turned away and climbed back into bed. I stepped outside into the cold, the gravel crunching under my shoes. I don't know why, but I started looking. My eyes scanned the ground until I saw it, crumpled paper near the corner of the driveway. The wedding invitation. I picked it up, smoothed it out under the porch light. My chest went tight. Percival Celestino Leora Patterson. For a second, I couldn't hear anything but the thud of my own heartbeat. No. Impossible. She's dead. But that fucking message. The voice in the dream. The way Percival looked at me last night, like he was already laughing at the end of this game. It all connected. If this is real, then she's alive. And she's his. And if she's his, she's my enemy. I stared at Leora's name until my vision blurred, then grabbed my phone and dialed a number I swore I'd never call. It rang once. Twice. Marshall, Percival's voice slid through the line, smooth and smug, like he'd been sitting there waiting for me to break. Who's the bride? Why the fuck is Leora's name on that paper? If you're that interested, he said, lazy as hell, attend the wedding. I'm not playing your fucking games. He chuckled, deep and dark, you've been playing my game since the day you were born. Before I could spit back, I heard it. Faint, in the background a voice. Her voice. Leora. She said something I couldn't make out, but it didn't matter. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles ached. Put her on the phone, I growled. Silence. Then Percival's tone dropped to ice. She's not yours to speak to anymore. I was about to roar back when a scream ripped through my house. I rushed to the master's bedroom. The bathroom door was wide open. Daphne was on the floor, blood pooling beneath her, hands shaking like she couldn't even hold on to her own body. Her face was ghost white, and her mouth opened and closed like she couldn't breathe. Marshall. I slipped, she choked out between sobs. Get the car. Now. I barked over my shoulder. My men scattered, boots hitting marble. I didn't wait. I scooped her up, felt the hot stickiness of her blood soaking into my shirt, but I didn't care. She was trembling against me, muttering half words I couldn't catch. The hospital lights were too bright, too clean. The doctors took her from my arms, their voices urgent. She's pregnant, I snapped, pointing a blood-stained finger at the lead doctor. Protect my heir. I don't care what it takes. They nodded and disappeared into the ER, door swinging shut. I stood there in the hallway, jaw tight, the smell of antiseptic mixing with the faint scent of her blood still clinging to my hands. My mind was split and one part locked on Daphne behind those doors, the other replaying that faint, impossible voice from Percival's call. Leora. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. She's not yours anymore. Chapter 14. The clock on the hospital wall ticked too loud. I sat there in the waiting area, the smell of stale coffee and antiseptic pressing against my skin. I called in my top men, voice low and sharp. Find Percival. Find where the fuck he's keeping Leora. I don't care how much it costs. I want an address before sunrise. They left without another word. Hours later, the sound of their boots on tile made me look up. They were a mess. One had his shirt torn, another's nose was bleeding, and all of them looked like they'd been dragged through hell and spat out. What the fuck happened? I demanded. The oldest of them met my eyes, jaw tight. Boss, his people are ghosts. We never saw them coming. They knew every move before we made it. My blood boiled, heat crawling up my neck. That was when my phone vibrated in my hand. If you're that curious, I'll bring her tonight to your investor gala. I can see you can't wait to meet my bride before our wedding day. Percival. The words burned through me. I hurled the phone against the wall, watching it shatter into pieces. Triple the security for the gala, I barked. I want eyes on every door, every inch of that place. And if Percival tries one of his idiotic stunts, I looked each of them in the eye, voice dropping to a growl. Kill him. Their silence told me they understood. Leora's POV. The stylist pins the last curl into place, my reflection staring back at me like a stranger I've been trying to become. My hair is loose in a messy, romantic bun, pieces framing my face. The dress clings to me like it was sewn straight onto my skin, dark and sharp, a warning and an invitation in the same breath. Percival is across the room, leaning against the wall like he owns the air I breathe, cigarette between his fingers. His eyes track me slowly, like he's cataloging every inch. He steps forward without a word and takes my hand. A diamond bracelet slides onto my wrist, cold and heavy, the kind that makes people shut up mid-sentence. His voice drops low, almost a growl. Tonight, you are mine. Mia Mowgli. Not as a weapon. Not as bait. Mine. I meet his gaze in the mirror, my voice steady. If he looks at me, I will not look away. The corner of his mouth lifts. Good girl. He kisses my hand, his lips brushing my skin just enough to make my heartbeat stutter. I bury it deep before he can notice. Because I know the truth. Percival is using me. And I am using him. We are both playing this game with knives hidden behind our backs. The investor gala smells like old money and ambition. Crystal chandeliers drip light across marble floors. Champagne towers sparkle in the corners. Perfume thick enough to taste lingers in the air. The moment we walk in, the room stills. Heads turn. Whispers coil through the crowd. Who the hell is she? Is that Percival Celestino? I thought he didn't do public appearances. The illegitimate son of Celestino? Shoo, don't say that out loud unless you want to end up in the sea. That woman beside him, she looks like someone I know. No, that can't be. Leora Patterson's dead. Then why the fuck does she look exactly like her? You think Percival brought a ghost to his half-brother's own party? The murmurs cling to me like smoke. I keep my chin high, my arm looped through Percival's, my pulse steady even as my eyes scan the glittering room for the one man who will recognize me without question. Marshall is across the room, Daphne on his arm dressed in white like she's about to float off into heaven. He's talking to some investor, fake smile in place, but then his gaze snags on me. His words die in his throat. The glass in his hand tilts like he might drop it. Daphne notices. Marshall? What is it? She turns and sees me too. Her lips part, her face paling like she's just seen her own grave. I feel the heat of his stare crawl over my skin. I keep walking, my hand resting lightly on Percival's arm. He leans in, his breath warm against my ear. He's about to lose his mind. Smile for me. My lips curl slowly, dangerously. Marshall shoves through the crowd, leaving Daphne standing there with wide, trembling eyes. He moves like nothing else in the room exists except me. Percival steps forward before he can reach me, a wall made of pure, lethal calm. The air between them crackles with something old and rotten. Marshall's voice is low, coiled tight. What the fuck is this? Percival doesn't blink. Introducing my bride. Show some manners. I finally meet Marshall's eyes. His name tastes cold on my tongue. Good evening, Marshall. You look disappointed that I'm alive. His voice is almost a whisper. Leora? I let a small smile touch my mouth. You remember. He killed my babies, so I married his brother. Chapter 15. Daphne rushes up, clutching Marshall's arm like she's saving him from me. No, this can't be. You're dead. I saw the fire. We buried you. I prayed for you every night. Her voice trembles just enough to draw sympathy from the onlookers. Then who's standing in front of you? I tilt my head. Or are you just afraid I'm here to take something back from you? Daphne's eyes fill with tears. I never took anything from you, Leora. I loved you. I only wanted to keep this family together after you were gone. Even after what you did to me. After what I did to you. I laugh once, sharp. Don't tell me you're going to act like a pitiful Saint Virgin again, Daphne. Just like you do every time Marshall's in the room. Always so pure, so wronged, so perfectly fragile. Marshall's jaw tightens. Leora. Stop accusing your twin. Oh, save it. I don't care. Daphne's voice cracks like she might cry. You don't care that I held your ashes? That I cried until I couldn't breathe? That I kept your memory alive? I step forward until I'm close enough for her perfume to choke me. You kept my memory alive for your benefit, sister. You wrapped it in white lace so people wouldn't see the blood on your hands. She gasps like I slapped her. How could you? Truth has a way of sounding cruel when you've been living a lie. Enough, Leora. Percival's fingers curl around my wrist. He raises my hand, his voice low enough to sting. Lower your voice, Marshall. The woman you're talking to is my wife. The room ripples with murmurs. They're fighting over the same woman. Two brothers, same bride? That's fucking messy. Bet blood will spill before the night's over. Percival smirks faintly, still holding my hand. Daphne looks like she wants the floor to swallow her. And Marshall. Marshall just looks like he's finally realizing the game isn't his anymore. Daphne's hand flies to her chest. She sways like a feather in the wind, making a little gasp that I'm sure she thinks sounds delicate. A few people murmur, someone even reaches forward as if to steady her. Marshall doesn't move. His eyes are locked on me, sharp and unblinking, like the rest of the room doesn't exist. His voice cuts clean through the murmurs. So you faked your death, to run away with this bastard Celestino? The words are slow, deliberate. He wants them to land like knives. I take one step toward him, closing the space until I can see the way his jaw ticks. My voice is low, but I know every syllable will slice. Didn't you knock up my twin? Didn't you kill mine, just to pump my blood into her veins when she didn't even need it? The room freezes. No glasses clink, no shoes shuffle. Just silence so tight it could snap. Marshall's mouth twists. Careful what you say, Leora. Careful? I tilt my head. So why act shocked, Marshall? If you can fuck my sister, I can fuck your brother. How's the medicine taste? I let my smile grow razor thin. Bitter? He stares at me like he wants to tear me apart. Good, I say, my voice softer now, more dangerous. It means I'm not coming back to you. The room ignites. Murmurs like fire, licking every corner. Investors whisper hard into each other's ears. 3 of them break from the crowd and walk right to Marshall. We're done, one says flatly. No more deals, another adds. Your name's poison now, the third finishes. It hits him. I watch the shame pull his shoulders tight, his face hardening as cameras flash. His hand snaps out and grabs my arm. The grip is bruising. You're my wife, he spits. Before I can answer, Percival steps forward, calm as ice. No, he says, voice flat and lethal. Not anymore. She's my wife. He pulls a folded paper from his jacket and tosses it onto the nearest table. The sound is small, but it echoes. Daphne lunges for it, fingers trembling as she scans the page. Her face drains white, and her eyes dart between me and Percival like she's looking for some crack in the truth. There isn't one. They're married, she says, voice higher now, trying to reach the whole room. Husband and wife. Flashes explode from the paparazzi. Investors circle closer, the air turning into a feeding frenzy. Daphne's still holding the paper, like maybe she can will it to vanish. Marshall's breathing hard, fury tightening his stance. And me? I just stand there, my arm in Percival's, watching them both choke on the fact that I'm not theirs to claim. We then left the gala without saying a word. City lights slid across Percival's face through the tinted windows, making him look carved from shadow and steel. One hand on the wheel, the other holding a cigarette, his jaw was tight like he was biting back something sharp. I studied him for a moment. Take me to my parents' grave before we go home. His eyes flicked to me, then back to the road. All right. No questions. No hesitation. Just a quiet turn, and the city shifted around us. The cemetery was still, silvered in moonlight. The air was heavy with lilies. I knelt by the gravestones, tracing my parents' names with my fingertips. He stayed back at first, smoke curling from his hand, then came closer and bowed his head in silence. I looked at him. If I had met you first instead of Marshall, maybe I could have loved you. Maybe I could have been happy. He stared down at me. And now? I smiled faintly. Now I'm happy for another reason. You're the reason I'll finish my revenge. His arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me up. His mouth caught mine in a kiss that felt like it burned the air around us. We didn't speak on the way to his villa. The place was quiet, low-lit, and warm. I barely took a step inside before he pinned me to the wall, kissing me hard. Chapter 16. In the bedroom, he undressed me slowly, almost reverent. His eyes roamed like he was memorizing me. You've been mine since the second I saw you, he murmured, his hand sliding over my skin. I laughed softly against his mouth. Possessive much? His lips brushed my ear. You have no idea, baby. He laid me down, his fingers trailing slow paths, his mouth following every curve. He took his time, like he wanted to ruin me piece by piece. I gripped his hair, gasping. Percival. Say it again, he ordered, his voice dark and rough. Percival, I breathed, my back arching as he pushed me further. Good girl. He didn't let me rest, making me come over and over until I was shaking. I whispered, half laughing, half gasping, you're going to kill me. He smirked, kissing my throat. Not until I'm done. It was 10 times before he finally collapsed beside me, both of us flushed and breathless. Unlike Marshall, who would have left me cold and alone, Percival stayed. His arm heavy around my waist, his mouth brushing my hair. Mine, he said one last time before sleep pulled us under. I woke up in Percival's bed, sunlight spilling across the sheets like gold paint. The other side was cold. For a second, there was this hollowness in my chest, stupid and sharp, like I'd actually let myself believe he'd still be there. Maybe he had left without a word. The door opened, quiet but certain, and there he was. Percival walked in with a tray of eggs, fresh fruit, coffee, and a single white lily in a glass. He set it down on the bed, sat beside me, and looked me over like he was checking for damage. Eat, he said, you barely touched anything last night. I glanced at the tray, then at him. You brought me breakfast? He raised a brow. What the fuck else was I supposed to bring you? A gun? I laughed under my breath, though my mind flickered to Marshall. How in all those years, not once did he care if I ate, not once did he bring me anything except trouble. I reached for the fork, but Percival caught my wrist. Open your mouth. You're feeding me now? I asked, but there was a smile tugging at my lips. Yeah. And you're gonna let me, he said, smirking like he dared me to fight him on it. I let him feed me, bite after bite, his eyes never leaving mine. I finally grabbed the fork from him, but he just leaned in, took it back without breaking eye contact, and said, nice try, princess. The tray didn't last long between us. 1 second we were laughing, the next his mouth was on mine, heat curling through my veins. He shoved the tray aside without looking, pulled me under him, and the sunlight caught on his skin as he made me forget the world all over again. We were still catching our breath when his phone rang. The shift in him was instant. His eyes went cold, voice clipped. What happened? I sat up, watching him. One of the convoys got hit this morning, he said, already swinging out of bed. 2 men injured. One's missing. The air between us tightened. He dressed in under a minute, pulling on his jacket and checking his gun. I'll be back before you even think about missing me. I grabbed his collar and kissed him slow, tasting the steel under his skin. Don't get killed. He smirked like it wasn't a possibility, then walked out. Alone, I showered, steam wrapping around me, my mind replaying the night, the morning, every sharp edge of him. In the living room, I turned on the TV, and the war was already spilling out of every channel. Headlines screamed my return from the dead, my marriage to Percival, the public fight with Marshall, Daphne's dramatic little collapse. They replayed close-ups. Marshall's face twisted with rage, Daphne crumpling like some tragic heroine, Percival holding my hand as the cameras flashed. I sat back on the couch, lips curling into a faint smile. The war wasn't coming. It was here. And everyone was watching. I know Percival was busy right now, so I decided to take a little trip into the city. I dressed for it. Black dress that hugged my body, sunglasses, heels sharp enough to kill a man if I aimed right. Two of Percival's men followed a few steps behind, guns hidden but obvious if you knew where to look. I stepped into one of the luxury boutiques, running my fingers over silk and leather. The staff smiled too much. The customers stared, pretending they weren't. I ignored all of them. Then her perfume hit me before I even saw her. Daphne. She walked in like she owned the place, pupils blown wide, pregnant belly rounding her dress. She smirked at me like the universe had gifted her this moment. Following me now, Leora, she said, voice too loud. Could have just called if you wanted to talk. I turned slowly, slid my sunglasses off so she could see every inch of my expression. Why the hell would I stalk a bitch who stole my twin's husband? Her smirk twitched. I don't follow trash, I said, voice low enough to make her lean in. I take it out. The girl behind the counter froze with a scarf halfway folded. A couple near the display rack shifted so they could hear better. Daphne's smile turned brittle. Still so dramatic. No wonder Marshall prefers me. No, I said, stepping closer. He prefers whoever's easiest to control. And you've always been easy. She bristled and stormed toward the exit. I followed because it was the only way out, my heels echoing against the marble. In the middle of the hallway, she spun on me and slapped me hard. The crack of it turned heads. I didn't even blink. I slapped her back. Once. Twice. Quick, sharp, loud enough to sting the air. Chapter 17. She gasped like I'd just shot her, one hand going to her stomach. Oh my God, she cried, voice trembling in that fake way. She hit me. I'm pregnant and that's for the first time I let you touch me without bleeding for it, I said, my voice flat, cutting through us. Her fake sobs echoed off the marble while the crowd gathered, phones coming out. My bodyguard stepped in, but I didn't move. Then a woman nearby gasped and stepped forward, grabbing Daphne's arm like she was some fragile doll. Hey, are you okay? That woman's a psycho, she hissed at me loud enough for everyone to hear. Murmurs spread like wildfire. She's Marshall's first wife, right? Now she's hurting her own twin sister? Jealousy's ugly. Poor Daphne, always the innocent one. I stayed silent, ice cold as ice. Let them talk. Daphne caught the wave and milked it. She raised her voice shaking like she'd just survived a storm. She's hated me since we were kids. Always stirring trouble. Our parents loved me more, but she twisted it, made them doubt everything. I kept my face still, voice calm when I answered. You're the one who poisoned their love with your lies and greed. Always the spoiled brat who needed to win at all costs. The crowd hung on every word, a few shocked, some delighting in the family drama unfolding live. Daphne threw her head back, sobbing louder now. You made me a villain in their eyes. But who really destroyed this family? You did. You took what wasn't yours and burned it all down. I stepped closer, voice dropping to a razor edge. You set the fire, killed your own sister's life so you could have mine. Don't act like the victim now. A man whispered nearby, this is better than any soap opera. Twins tearing each other apart over a man. Daphne turned to the crowd, tears still flowing but eyes hard. She's jealous of everything I have, the love, the family, Marshall's heart. She always wanted what I had and burned it down to take it. I let the silence hang heavy before I said, jealous? No. I'm reclaiming what was stolen. And this time I'm not letting go. Because I will burn your future with Marshall. I'll watch you and him turn to ashes, just like that place you destroyed. The crowd gasped, eyes darting between us, some in shock, others with secret satisfaction. Daphne's face twisted in fury and pain, but I didn't wait for her next sob or scream. I turned on my heel and walked away. After the drama, I drove back to the villa that Percival owned. When I got to the front door, I saw it was cracked open. My heart slammed. Something was wrong. Inside the bedroom, there he was, Percival, sitting against the wall, blood seeping from his shoulder. His usual cold calm flickered for a second when he caught my panic. What the hell happened? I rushed to him, my fingers trembling as I reached for the wound. He smirked, teasing even through the pain. Ambush. 3 black SUVs, at least 8 men. Took down 5 of those bastards before one managed to tag me. I blinked, trying to process it all. Marshall's move? He laughed, dark and low. Probably. The bastard always hates to see me breathing, but I'm tougher than he thinks. Just a scratch. He flexed his arm, grinning. Still good for 10 rounds later if you're up for it. I pinched his arm hard. You're joking while bleeding, you asshole. He just leaned in, kissed me with that dangerous grin. Can't help it. Keeps me alive. I knelt down, carefully cleaning the wound, half worried and half fascinated. This man was a lethal force, and somehow, I was wrapped up in him. I whispered, "It's Marshall. He hates me now that I'm yours." Percival's eyes darkened. Let him go crazy. What's mine is mine. I can destroy him with a flick of my hand. His grin turned dangerous. Say the word. I'll kill him with my eyes closed. My stomach twisted. I knew he meant it. No, I said firmly. Don't put blood on your hands. I want them broken, begging on the dirt. Crawling for mercy. Not dead. He smiled, that cold smile that sent shivers down my spine, and kissed my hand. As you wish, my queen. But if anyone dares to touch you, I make no promises. They'll die screaming. I held his gaze. Good. Because I'm not just playing for power. This is war. And I intend to win. Marshall's POV. The red numbers on the stock screen bled like open wounds. Down 15% overnight. Investors were already calling, their voices tight, asking if they should pull out before the ship sank. I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Get me a status update on Percival, I barked at my assistant without looking away from the screen. Now. 5 minutes later, my top enforcer walked in, jaw tight. We hit him broad daylight. 3 SUVs. 8 men. I looked up, sharp. And? 8 dead. He paused. Ours. I froze, the air in the room going sharp and cold. Ours? He nodded, avoiding my eyes. Percival took a bullet to the shoulder. That's it. I slammed my palm on the table, the sound echoing. That's it? That motherfucker's supposed to be in the ground. He's not just some rich boy with muscle, my enforcer muttered. I don't give a shit what he is. I cut him off. I said kill him. My voice dropped lower, colder. Kill them all. I don't care if it takes 100 bullets. I want his blood on the street. He's not easy to get close to, he said carefully. Even wounded, the man fights like he's what? I snapped. Like he's already planning your funeral. I stared at him, my jaw tightening. Then we make sure it's his. Chapter 18. Leora's POV. I was having gun training with Percival when his men came with an envelope. Thick, expensive paper. The kind you don't rip open unless you're ready for trouble. One of his lieutenants handed it to me with a straight face. It's from Mr. Fernando Celestino, he said. I broke the seal right there. The gold script spelled it out clear: Fernando's lavish birthday banquet. The kind of party where women wore diamonds like armor and men smiled while calculating your downfall. Everyone would be there. Marshall. His vultures. My enemies. My audience. So, the old man finally calls you in. Personally, I said. Guess he wants to see if the rumors are true. His mouth curved, not quite a smile. He hated me for years. The minute I made my first billion and became untouchable in the underworld, suddenly I was worth calling son. You're going? I asked. He shrugged. It's his game. I'll sit at the table, drink his wine, and remind everyone I'm the most dangerous man in the room. Then I guess I'll have to look the part too. By the time I stepped out of the dressing room, I had my gown draped over me like sin. Deep green silk, slid up to the thigh. My jewelry caught the light like little blades. Percival's gaze dropped, slow and deliberate, then back to my face. Planning to kill someone tonight? He asked. Only their pride. He crossed the room, stopping just close enough for his voice to sink into me. This isn't dinner, sweetheart. It's a nest of snakes and wolves. You're not scared? I looked him straight in the eye. I'm not. Since you're my bullet. That made him chuckle, low and dangerous. You're deadly, sweetheart. You're more than deadly, I shot back. His hand slid to my waist, grip firm. Then let's go remind them exactly who they're dealing with. The banquet hall smelled like money, power, and perfume strong enough to choke someone. Crystal chandeliers dripped light over tables dressed in gold, every guest watching every move like predators in silken suits. Percival's hand rested on the small of my back as we walked in. I could feel the eyes on us, the whispers. And then I saw Marshall. Our gazes locked across the room. No shouting, no theatrics. Just that quiet, razor-sharp recognition that made the air heavy. We approached Mr. Celestino together, the three of us in the same frame for the first time since everything went to hell. Fernando's smile was polite, but his eyes were cold steel. He didn't even bother pretending. You're like a whore, Leora. Switching between my sons. After my son, who's next? I didn't flinch. Why not ask Marshall why I ditched him and married Percival? That earned a low ripple of murmurs from nearby tables. Fernando's jaw tightened, but he didn't push it further. He was too aware of the audience. Daphne made her entrance like she owned the spotlight, clinging to Marshall's arm. He didn't even look like he cared she was there. She was glowing in that calculated way, pregnancy as her weapon, fake sweetness dripping from every word. She floated from guest to guest, whispering poison about me, how I'd always been jealous, the awful things I was capable of. I didn't bite. I sipped my wine and let her think she was winning. Then she passed close enough to brush my shoulder and whispered in my ear, voice almost giddy. Guess who killed our parents and blamed the weather? Wanna know who killed them? Me. The words burned through me before I could think. My hand flew, the crack of my palm against her cheek echoing in the hall. Gasps erupted. Daphne went down like I'd shot her. Help me, Marshall, she wailed from the floor. Even in your father's banquet she wants to kill me. I stared down at her. Tell me the truth. Did you really kill our parents? Her eyes filled with tears instantly. What are you talking about? Why are you blaming me? You blame me for everything. I slapped her again. This time Marshall stepped in, and Percival was already behind me, his voice low against my ear. Control your anger, wife. The wolves are staring, ready to devour. My chest heaved, but I stepped back. Before Fernando could open his mouth and explode, Percival took my hand and led me out, his grip firm but not harsh. As we walked away, I caught Marshall's eyes following me, cold and calculating. He didn't even glance at Daphne still lying on the floor. The car was silent except for the leather creaking under Percival's grip on the steering wheel. His profile was carved from stone, no softness in sight. Why, he said, voice low and dangerous, did you lose control in front of every pair of eyes in that room? I stared straight ahead. Because she killed them. Daphne killed our parents. She set fire to the vineyard and left while it burned. She stole everything that was mine. And she and Marshall. My throat locked for a second. They killed my baby. His eyes stayed on the road, but his jaw ticked hard enough I could hear it grind. His hand slid to my thigh, heavy, steady, like he was keeping me from flying apart. Before either of us could say more, his phone rang. One of his men glanced at the caller ID, then handed it to him. Chapter 19. A dark, humorless laugh slipped from Percival. Go crawl back to your pregnant little whore, Marshall, before I decide to finish what I started at the ambush. He ended the call without waiting for a reply, tossed the phone aside like trash. I saw it then, in the way his mouth curved without smiling. He was already building something in his head. Something big. That night, I lay in bed pretending to sleep. Percival's phone lit up the room and he answered, listening in silence for a long time before standing. Which shipment? His voice was a blade now. How much? Million gone? He swore in Italian under his breath. I'm coming. He grabbed his jacket. I stayed still until the door closed and his footsteps faded. Then I slipped out of bed, grabbed my phone, and dialed Daphne. She picked up on the second ring, her voice smug. What, Leora? You gonna kill me like I killed our parents? They were idiots anyway. Before I could speak, there was a shuffle on the other end. A new voice came through, low and dangerous. Leora. I didn't answer. Marshall's tone sharpened, cold enough to cut. Come to me, or I'll burn down your sister. My stomach dropped. My hand tightened on the phone until it hurt. The line stayed open, and then I heard it crash so sharp it made me flinch. Daphne screamed, high-pitched and furious. How dare you, you'd burn me just for her. There was a pause, then Marshall's voice came through, muffled but dripping venom. I caught curses, threats, his tone almost shaking with rage. I ended the call before I could hear more. My phone hit the bed and I started pacing, bare feet against the cold floor. Marshall wouldn't really touch her. Not Daphne. This was his game, his way of baiting me. Still, my pulse wouldn't slow, and every breath felt too shallow. I tried lying back down. The room felt smaller, darker. Every shadow stretched too far, every creak in the walls felt like someone standing just outside the door. I kept glancing at it, waiting for it to open, waiting for Percival's voice. Hours passed. The clock bled into dawn. No sign of him. By morning, the sunlight was pale against the curtains. My chest tightened. I called him once. No answer. Again. Straight to voicemail. I left a short message. Call me back. My voice sounded flat, not like mine. Silence. Then my phone buzzed. One new message. From Daphne. Just a video file. I pressed play. She was chained to a post, hair matted, face bloodied. Her lip was split wide, her sobs thick and slurred. She was shaking, trying to speak through the pain. Behind her, Marshall's voice slithered into the audio low, cold, the kind of tone that didn't need to be loud to be lethal. This wasn't a show. There was no stage, no audience to charm. The blows landing on her were real. The blood on her mouth was dark and heavy. My stomach turned cold. Marshall had actually hurt her. The video kept playing, Daphne's sobs breaking through the silence. She clutched her swollen belly, voice shaking. I'm pregnant with your child, why the fuck are you doing this to me? You said I was your love. Marshall's eyes were stone cold, voice cutting sharper than any blade. No. It was Leora I loved. You? You were just a mistake. Seeing her with my bastard brother because of you made me want to gut you both. Leora will come back to me if I kill you and your fucking son of a driver. Daphne stammered, panic thick in her voice. How did you find out? Then the camera shifted, and Marshall's men dragged in the driver. He was breathing, scared, but before he could say anything, Marshall put a gun to his head and pulled the trigger. The crack echoed, final and merciless. "You fucked my driver behind my back. And that's not even the worst." Marshall spat the words, venom dripping. "I saw the hospital records. Your kid's blood DNA isn't mine. You lied. Thought you could hide it." Daphne's face went pale. Her sobs turned desperate. Marshall sneered, voice bitter and raw. "I let my twin die with Leora because of you. I let her walk away because of you. You think I can't kill you? If killing you drags Leora back to me, then I'll burn everything to the ground." He kicked her hard in the stomach. She doubled over, gasping, tears spilling over. Her cries cracked as she realized the truth, trapped between a man broken by betrayal and a love turned into a weapon. Marshall leaned into the camera again, voice dark as a storm. "I'm giving you 30 minutes to get here, Leora. Wanna know why Percival's not back yet? He's in the basement locked up tight, and they'll kill him if you don't show." The screen went black. I dropped the phone, heart hammering. This wasn't just a war anymore. This was a goddamn execution waiting to happen. I swallowed hard and whispered to the empty room, "You want me here? Fine. I'm coming." Chapter 20. I hit record on my phone, voice steady even though my hands shook. I spoke directly to Percival's tech team. "If I don't come back alive, release everything. The videos of Marshall beating Daphne. The truth about the vineyard. I hate them both, but no one has the right to kill." I swallowed hard and stopped the recording. It would send automatically in an hour. Enough time for me to either survive or die. I refused to bring Percival's men. This wasn't a battle I wanted to turn into a massacre. I had to be alone in this. My hatred for Daphne burned hotter than ever. She destroyed our family, stole my husband, but she was still my sister. And no matter how much I wanted to burn her to ashes, I wouldn't become a monster like Marshall. I slipped into the house quietly. Marshall wasn't anywhere. Instead, I found Daphne tied to a post, bruised and bleeding. She looked weak, but I didn't rush to her side. I pulled my gun free, heart thudding hard, and headed to the basement. I knew the blueprint of this place like the back of my hand. But when I reached the basement door, it swung open, and inside was empty. Percival was gone. The whole thing felt like a trap. I barely had time to process before the heavy door slammed behind me. Marshall's voice echoed in the dark, slow, and venomous. "Welcome home, Leora." I whipped around and he stepped out of the shadows, pulling me into a cold, twisted embrace. My instincts screamed at me this was a trap. I shoved him away hard, every muscle ready to fight. "Still playing the queen, huh? Married to my bastard brother and thinking you can take what's mine?" His breath was hot against my skin, eyes black with rage. "I'm not yours," I spat back, leveling the gun at him. "You lost that right the day you buried me alive." Marshall laughed, dark and cruel. "You and Daphne? You're both mine. Don't forget that. I built this empire. You're just pieces on my board." I fired, aiming for his chest, but he dodged like a ghost, fast and deadly. We clashed, my training with Percival kicking in, but he was stronger, meaner. Then he landed a brutal punch to my stomach and the air whooshed out of me. I doubled over, gasping, seeing stars. "You think you win?" I growled through the pain. He leaned in close, voice a cold whisper. "I already won the moment you walked back into my life." When I woke up, Marshall's basement was cold, damp, and dark, the perfect cage for a woman held hostage. Chains bit into my wrists, but I stayed still, eyes sharp, mind working overtime. I played the part. Cold, distant, untouchable, while hunting for any crack in his armor. He paced in front of me like a predator with his prize. "You know why I'm doing this, don't you?" His voice was rough, like gravel scraped across steel. "Percival's out there burning my men, torching my empire, crashing my stock to hell." He spat the words like poison. "All because of you. You led him straight to me. I met his eyes without flinching. Yeah, that's because I told him to ruin you. The day you let my children die. The day you chose my sister over me. That's when I sold my soul to him. The slap came out of nowhere, sharp and fierce across my cheek. Pain flared, but I swallowed it, eyes blazing. Then Marshall pulled me close and crushed his mouth to mine like a claim. I bit him hard, teeth sinking into his lip, tasting blood. He cursed into the air raw and angry. His hand swung again, slapping me harder this time. You're not the woman I loved, he growled, dragging a hand through my hair and yanking me upright. You're a rabid dog now. Biting the hand that fed you. His eyes were dark, wild. But I like this version. It's a challenge. I spit in his face. Fuck you. A twisted smile spread across his lips. Good, he said. Let's fuck. Without warning, he ripped my blouse down, exposing my skin. His lips trailed over my bare breast, hard and scorching. I shivered, not from pleasure, but from the dangerous fire burning behind his touch. You think you're strong, huh? His voice was low and lethal. But you're mine. Always been. I held his gaze, steady and fierce. Not anymore. Percival's POV. The message hit like a bullet through my gut. Leora was taken hostage. Deep in Marshall's goddamn mansion basement. The tech team flagged it, her live video to them was scheduled if she didn't come back. I threw down the glass I was holding, fury twisting cold and sharp. I was just burning Marshall's assets, cleaning house, watching his empire crumble like ash in the wind. Now he thought he could take what was mine. Gear up, I barked at my men. This is no rescue. This is a goddamn war. I want eyes open, guns ready, and no mercy. You get in, you get her out. You bring hell down on anyone who stands in the way. Understand? Chapter 21. One of my best operatives nodded, voice tight. Boss, the estate's crawling with his guys. Heavy security, cameras, armed patrols. I cracked my knuckles. Then we move like ghosts. No alarms. Tunnel access is ready, hacked their security codes 3 days ago. Tonight, they don't know what's coming. They tightened their gear, silence thick except for the clink of weapons and the hum of loading clips. The tunnels beneath Marshall's estate were a snake's maze, dark and damp, but familiar to my team. Every second felt like a countdown to hell. A flash, a guard nearly caught us. A silenced shot and he crumpled before he could raise the alarm. Gunfire echoed, orders shouted, the taste of adrenaline bitter but sweet. I pushed forward, ruthless, eyes locked on the prize. Leora's life. Then the radio buzzed, static, then the harsh voice of Marshall's lieutenant. Boss, Percival's inside. They're moving fast. I pressed forward, stepping into the basement. The air was thick, stifling. Then there he was. Marshall, grinning. Leora chained, his arm tied around her neck like a noose. I didn't hesitate. Let her go, Marshall. His laugh was cruel. Or what? You'll burn my house down? I leveled my pistol, voice like ice. I'll burn this place to fucking ashes. You want to play games? Fine. But it ends tonight. Marshall tightened his grip on Leora, gun pressed to her temple. She's mine. Always was. I met his eyes, cold and unblinking. You lost her the day you chose your poison over your blood. Let her go or I swear I'll make you regret the day you were born. Marshall fires first, a bullet ripping through the air, aiming straight for my shoulder. Reflexes honed from years of war kick and I dodge, feeling the rush of air where the shot missed by inches. My turn. I squeeze the trigger. The bullet hits his arm, and he screams, pain raw and sharp. That only fuels the fight. He snarls, pulling something from his jacket, a bomb remote. His grin chills me to the bone. This whole fucking house is wired. 2 minutes. Countdown started. The sound clicks in the silence. A cold, mechanical ticking. Time is bleeding away, faster than I can count. Then a scream cuts through the chaos. Daphne, released by my men but now panicking as she follows into the basement. Percival. It's hidden in the wine cellar. I bark orders fast, no room for hesitation. Find it. Disarm it. Now. Move. Gunfire and shouts echo through the mansion as my team scatters, a storm of violence and desperation. Marshall keeps Leora close, whispering like a man lost in madness. I love you, Leora. Let's wipe the slate clean. No me. No Daphne. Just us and our twins. His voice drops soft, but there's a venom underneath. Like a snake coiled, ready to strike. Leora spits in his face, ice cold and unbreakable. Marshall lunges, trying to grab her, to kiss her, his last desperate play to snatch control. I don't think twice. I kick him back hard, brutal enough to crack ribs. Then I shoot one clean shot right to his head. He hits the floor, lifeless. But that ticking, relentless and cruel, won't stop. I glance at my men. We're running out of time. Get that bomb now. The countdown claws down 30 seconds, 20, 10. Leora's POV. I'm crying, my voice barely holding steady as I whisper, Percival, please. Just get out of here. Save yourself. Get Daphne. This isn't your fight anymore. His eyes snap sharp, burning into mine. I'm not leaving you. Not without you. You're not going anywhere alone. Percival, listen to me, run. Don't waste your life on me. I'm shaking, every second ticking down, every breath heavier. Marshall's voice cuts through, low and desperate, you're my wife, Leora. If you die, I'm better off dead too. Why? I managed to choke out. Because I fucking love you. That line, it's madness, but it's raw and twisted. Percival's hands move faster, cutting chains, sweat dripping, but steady. My tears fall harder. The countdown snarls closer. 5, 4, 3. Chapter 22. I begged again, voice trembling, Percival, please, run. One of his men's voice crackled on the radio, boss, cut the right wire, we stopped it. The silence after is deafening. Then Daphne stumbles in, pale as death, blood trickling down her forehead. She falls to the floor, breath ragged, her pregnancy pushed to the edge. I break, tears streaming down. We almost died. Percival pulls me tight, voice low but deadly calm, you're alive. We're alive. Nothing else matters. I stare at him, swallowing the chaos in my chest. If you weren't here, I'd be nothing. He kisses my forehead, his grip fierce. I'm not letting you die on my watch. You belong to me. Always. He lifts me up, no hesitation, and carries me out, every step a promise, I'm not letting this end like this. Percival got me to the hospital fast, the kind where every second counts. Doctors were rushing all around us, voices sharp, hands steady. They moved me onto a bed, hooked me up to machines, while Percy stayed close, his eyes dark and watchful. They admitted Daphne too, though she looked like she barely had any fight left. Her swollen belly was fragile, her face bruised and pale. The doctors said her pregnancy was critical. I felt something twist inside me, pain, maybe, or pity, but I didn't show it. By morning, the news was everywhere. The papers, the channels, they were obsessed with our story, me, Marshall, Daphne, Percival, all tangled in this mess of hate and betrayal. Everyone was talking about Marshall's death. The city's underworld shook, and the markets took a nosedive. Daphne's baby didn't make it. When she finally broke down, begging for forgiveness, the woman was crushed and hollow. Leora, please. I know I ruined everything. I hurt you, the family, the baby. I'm sorry. I never wanted it to end like this. I stared at her, my voice calm but cold. Sorry won't fix what you destroyed, Daphne. You didn't just hurt me. You killed the trust we had, killed our parents, our family. You think a few tears make it right? She swallowed hard, voice cracking. I'm broken too. I lost the baby. I lost everything. Can't we just start over? Maybe find some peace? I shook my head slowly, voice steady. No. There's no peace with what you've done. I won't forgive you. Not now, not ever. You made your choices, now live with them. Her lip quivered. Please, Leora. I'm begging. If you hate me so much, what do you want from me? I took a breath, eyes sharp. I want you to disappear. Stay gone. Because if you come back, if you try to hurt anyone I care about, I won't hesitate. No more chances. She looked away, defeated. I understand. I didn't say anything else. My silence was the last thing she needed to hear. Later, I watched her leave on Percival's private jet, vanishing like she'd never been here. The only sound left was her quiet sobbing echoing in the empty hospital room. We drove back to the vineyard in silence, the air thick with everything we'd lost and everything that still burned inside me. The place looked broken. Dead vines, cracked earth, but it was still ours. My parents' legacy. Percival broke the quiet, voice low but firm. We'll build it again. For them. For you. I glanced at him, the weight of everything I'd lost pressing on my chest, but something flickered, hope, maybe. You really mean that? After everything? He didn't hesitate. I'm not here to play. I'll use every connection, every dirty trick I know to get us what we need. Investors, security, whatever it takes. I could almost see the years rolling back as we walked through the old grounds. I remembered running through the vines as a kid, the sun on my face, my parents' laughter mixing with the wind. But I also remembered the betrayal, the poison creeping in, the lies that tore us apart. I shook my head, trying to push the memories down. It's going to take more than money and muscle. It's going to take everything. He gave me a slow, knowing look. Good. Because I'm not just here for the vineyard. I'm here for you. The moon rose as we planted the first new vines. The soil smelled fresh, alive. A small start, but a beginning. Then he caught my hand, voice dropping to something softer, almost vulnerable. You should know something. Before all this, I met you once, back in high school. I had this huge crush on you, but I never said a word. I was ready to ask you out, but then everything blew up. I got disowned, pushed out by Celestino. I left the city. I blinked, surprised by the confession. He continued, eyes fixed on the dark horizon. When I came back, you were already in love with Marshall. So I kept my distance. But that crush? Never went away. Chapter 23. His hand tightened around mine like he was anchoring himself to the moment. I wasn't some cold shadow lurking in the background. I wanted to be the one standing by your side. But fate, or maybe the Celestinos, had other plans. I lost everything, including any chance with you. I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. Behind that hard edge, the ice-cold mafia boss was a man who'd carried a secret fire for years, hidden beneath layers of pain and betrayal. He swallowed, voice low and rough. I watched you from afar, how you loved Marshall, how you gave yourself to him. It tore me up inside. But I stayed away. I told myself it was for the best. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Why tell me now? He gave me a slow, bitter smile. Because the city's a hell of a place to keep secrets in, and I'm done hiding. Because you deserve to know the truth, not just the cold facts, but what really burned inside me. His gaze locked on mine, steady and unflinching. I never stopped wanting you, Leora. Not once. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure nothing ever takes you from me again. I smiled and kissed him. And now, we stood in that secret garden, the air thick with something unspoken. I turned to Percival, my voice low but steady. This isn't just about a wedding. It's about everything we've lost and what we refuse to lose again. He gave me that look, the one that's all cold steel and fire, and replied, You're not just my wife tonight. You're my partner in a war we're only beginning. I smiled, bitter and sharp. I vow to protect us. To protect this vineyard, this family, our future. I won't let anyone take it away. I love you. Percival's jaw tightened. I love you more. I swear, anyone who tries, I'll make them regret breathing. Then Fernando stepped forward, voice clipped but not unkind. You've both been through hell. Marshall's death still stings, but this, he gestured at us, this is a new beginning. Don't fuck it up. I glanced at Percival. Your father's harsh. He shrugged, dark humor hiding something deeper. Celestino men don't do soft. Mr. Hernando was there too. Smiling at me. You're finally happy now, Miss Leora. Congrats. A few weeks later, when I told Percival I was pregnant, he was quieter than usual. You're carrying my blood, I said, watching him. His eyes flickered. Not just yours. Ours. Twins. I laughed softly, surprised. Twins. He reached for my hand. I swear, no one will touch you or those babies. I'll burn anyone down who tries. I squeezed his hand back. I'm not afraid of the past anymore. He nodded, voice low and deadly serious. Good. Because the past isn't done with us yet. And that night, we stood watching the vineyard's first fruit grow, silent but certain whatever came next, we'd face it together. END.